Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. Before I get started, I would just like to remind you that if you would like to leave a comment, you will have to do so on my YouTube community page because YouTube disables my comments. And I also ask that you would like, share, and subscribe. So today's video I think is something really important that needs to be addressed. And it's something that I see it's very prevalent in society, and it's this. Parents are using school as a way to cope with some parenting issues that they have with their children. And so what I want to tell you is that school will only make your parenting problems worse. As a homeschooling mom, I have heard so many times the comment, I could never homeschool. I have to send my kids to school so that I can keep my sanity. And while there are a lot of people who say that just kind of as a blanket reason for dismissing homeschooling because they really have no interest in it at all, there are other parents who really would like to homeschool their parents, but who feel that any parenting issues that they might be dealing with are just too much to handle. And so sending their kids to school kind of looks like an inviting way for them to cope with that. But I'm going to reiterate what I said in the first segment. When you send your kids to school, it only perpetuates the problem of parenting. Let me tell you that there are no perfect parents out there. I have to say that right from the beginning. But I do understand that there are a lot of parents out there today who truly, truly do feel that they just can't do it. They just can't be with their children all day long. They would not be able to just handle it. And here's why I'm going to tell you that school is not going to help that problem. And it's something that I've addressed in several videos, but it's something that needs to be said again. And I'm not going to make it my entire focus, but people need to know this. One of the primary reasons for the start of compulsory schooling was to dissolve the family. It was for the dissolution of the family. Compulsory schooling was largely funded by the Rockefeller family, and like compulsory schooling, they also funded the women's lib movement, and one of the primary purposes behind the women's lib movement was also, again, the dissolution of the family. So what we're seeing is that there are so many people out there, parents and people who aren't parents, who are recommending people to just put their children in school and to let the teachers deal with them. But that is exactly what was intended when school was started. The reason that there are so many parents who don't know how to parent today is because they do not have the time with their children in order to learn how to do this. School, the existence of school and the separation of child from parent for anywhere from 30 to 40 hours a week, 5 days a week, for 36 weeks a year, from the age of around 4, sometimes even younger now. Yeah, I've seen, 2 and 3-year-olds who are going to preschool, all the way up through college age. Where is a parent supposed to learn to actually be a parent? School has removed the natural ability of people to parent. And this isn't something that is new. This is something that has happened over the generations. And I'm not going to say that pre-compulsory schooling, that every parent was just this wonderful parent and everything was just beautiful then. No, there were bad parents then. Unfortunately, there is an epidemic of people who I wouldn't necessarily call bad parents now, but I would say people who are struggling in understanding what their role is as a mother or a father, because again, their children are not present enough with them for them to even determine what it is that they're supposed to do. So here's the first thing that I want to tell you. The more time you spend away from your children, the less influence you are going to have as a parent. So of course you are going to have more problems with your children if you send them away to school all the time and they are not around you. Because firstly, they're likely to be around their teachers more than they are going to be around you, and they're going to be around their peers more than they are around you. So what you have is you have an environment where your children, instead of really being raised by you, the parent, they are being raised by their teachers and their peers. And first of all, I have to just point out that there are a lot of really good teachers out there. Not all of them, but there are some really good teachers out there. But the fact is that the way that the school model is set up and the way the parents have to answer to their teachers, you do begin to feel when your children are in school like a secondary parent. You do feel like you need to answer to the teacher rather than your teacher or your child's teacher answering to you all the time. And this is something that can be really confusing for a parent. And I think this is why so many parents out there will say something like, when Johnny is acting up, they'll say, oh, I'll just let the teacher deal with him. And that's something that you hear all the time because, again, parents don't have the experience of what it's like to handle these things because they're so busy pushing them off on someone else all the time. And then I also mentioned peers. They're around their peers an awful lot. And yeah, they are being raised in essence by their peers because there are a lot more peers than there are teachers. And as many good children as there are also that many not so good children who do not behave in a way that you may not want your child to behave. But what is going to happen is that since your child is away at school all day around these other children, they are very likely to bring home these behaviors of the other children. These other peer influence is huge. It is it's stronger than I think a lot of parents realize. So yeah, your kids are very likely to bring home these behaviors from school that you would never want your children to participate in. And the fact is that school goes far beyond academics these days. So even going back to the fact that your child's teacher will be raising them more than you will be, and you are very likely to see that your child is exhibiting some behaviors that are not appealing to you and that make you unhappy and that cause a lot of friction between you and your child when you are with your child. You are still, even though you may not be with your child while they're in school all day long, they are going to bring that attitude home with them. And I also have to point out, and this is kind of going out of on a little rabbit trail, but I have to mention this. I also have to mention that when your kids are coming home from school, they've been in school for 7 hours. They have likely been bored. They have likely been overstimulated. Yes, those two can go together. They can be both bored and overstimulated. They have been writing all day. They've been listening to lectures all day. If they have not been being disciplined all day, they are likely hearing other children being disciplined all day. They have the constant noise and, just things going on around them. When they get home, your children are very likely to be cranky. They're going to be tired. And on top of that, they're going to have to do all of this schoolwork, this homework that their parent gave to them. And they're not going to want to do it. So there goes a battle between parent and child. Another one that, again, stems from school because for some reason, 7 hours a day just isn't enough time to get all that work done. They also have to send that homework home with you. And again, there's a reason for that. They are doing that for a purpose, but yes, that in itself is causing problems. And then that will also cause a lot of the arguments that you're having with your kids after school and you're talking about their bad attitude, and is really because they are tired. They're tired of doing work all day, and then they come home and mom or dad is just constantly badgering them about homework or chores, and you wonder how this disconnect happens. Well, that's a large part of how that disconnect happens. But anyway, going back to when your kids are in school, you've got to realize that the past few decades, especially recently, it has really ramped up. School is not about academics. School is more about social engineering. So yes, your child is being molded into the type of citizen that the powers that be want them to be. So besides just learning English and math and history and science, you're going to hear a lot about social emotional learning. You're going to hear a lot about questionable curriculums. And the thing is that your children, their opinions are being shaped while they're in school. Their feelings are being shaped. Their morals are being shaped in school. And a lot of times this is something that does not come from the worldview of a parent, and that in itself is going to cause more clashes. But I'm going to say it again. If your child is there all day, who is influencing them more? You or the teacher. And I know that parents and children love each other. That goes without saying. But a lot of children do really look up to their teacher as well. And when they are in school all day long, a lot of kids just have this idea that teachers can do no wrong. They know everything. I mean, I was a child. I know I had the same thoughts about most of my teachers. And it's no different from your kids. Your children are being influenced from people that are not you. So now, all connected to what I've been talking about, I just want to add this one thing. The more time you spend away, the less time you can actually handle parenting. So if your kids are off all day in school and you are home, maybe by yourself, maybe with a younger child, you are not getting the experience that you need to be able to handle parenting properly. What this does, it conditions you as the parent to focus on yourself all day. You get so used to being on your own. You get so used to being able to do your own thing, to make your own schedule, to kind of just fly by the seat of your pants when it comes to bouncing around and doing different activities. And yeah, it is totally different when you have your kids home with you. When you have your kids home with you, your focus can't be just on yourself, and it can't be just on the things that you want to do or the schedule that you want to keep. There are some adjustments that have to be made. And unfortunately, since parents have been away from their kids for so long, that time that they do have while their kids are in school is so ingrained in them that it is really, really hard to get rid of that mindset and to just not feel like you just don't want to put your kids back in school again because, again, you can't handle it. And I have to just say again that this isn't something that is just happening with this generation. This is something that has been happening for several generations now, that parents are just being engineered, being conditioned to be used to not having their children with them all day. So then when it does come time for their kids to be home alone with them, their kids drive them so crazy that they are literally chomping at the bit to push their child back out the door in school. And that is exactly what the purpose of school is to have control over your children. So really that having your child in school all day and then them coming home and you constantly bickering back and forth with them, this whole scenario puts you at odds with your role as a parent. So I'm going to say it again. I've been repeating a lot of things, but I think that no matter how many times I say some of these things, some people just don't hear it. You need to spend more time with your children if you feel that you can't handle them all the time. And I know that seems counterintuitive. You're like, what? My child is driving me crazy. Why are you telling me to spend more time with them? I'm not saying that you should never get a break. But what I am telling you is that you need to get used to being around your child. And your child needs to get used to being around with you, or to being around you. I really should start writing down what I'm going to say and not just say it off the top of my head. But anyway, you have to remember that if your child has been in school all this time and then you're first bringing them home with you, they also have to get used to this. They're not used to being with you all day. They are used to being around teacher all day, and they are used to being around their peers all day. And it's something that a lot of children will even express that they miss doing that, but it's because that's all they know. All they have known is being around the teacher all day and being around their peers all day. And so they've never gotten to understand what a treasure it is to be home with their families. And that is why you have got to make the effort to take the time, take all the time that you can, spend it with your children, and don't continue the cycle. Compulsory schooling, I made a video about this, is actually, they use the Hegelian dialectic with compulsory schooling. So compulsory schooling created the problem of parents, or They created the problem by separating families. And then what ended up happening was that parents no longer knew how to be parents. Families were kind of disconnected, butting heads together. Parents get frustrated. And what's the solution? They send their kids right back to school, the very same environment that started a lot of these problems to begin with. And it's not to, I don't want to say that there are never any other issues that might affect someone's ability to parent, because I know that there are other issues that will affect people's ability to parent, but I don't think people realize how large of an impact compulsory schooling has had on our society because of the way that it has broken down the family, and it's time that we stop it. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one over on Instagram because YouTube disables my comments. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.